Welcome to Accelerate Your Dental Practice, the show for dental professionals ready to grow smarter, faster, and stronger. Hosted by Michelle Affanato of Affinity Management Consulting and Malika Azargoon of Czar Dental Consulting. Each episode delivers practical strategies and expert advice to help you streamline operations, increase profitability, and reduce stress. Let's get started.
Welcome back to Accelerate Your Dental Practice. Today, Malika and I are so excited to have our friend and colleague Lynne Leggett of Victory Dental Management with us because she talks on the things that, not that Malika and I can't talk on them, but like she's my expert at this when we go to all things like leadership and team dynamics and culture and burnout. She has over 25 years of experience in dentistry. She teaches dentists and managers how to build cohesive, high-performing teams. And I think like her approach to this is really interesting because it's not all dentistry focused. And I'll let her talk about that a little bit. But Lynne, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Yes.
Thank you for asking me. This is going to be fun.
I'm so excited, especially we were chatting a little bit before we came onto the podcast. And I don't know about everybody else, but this has been the week of doctors and managers telling me like, I'm feeling it, Michelle. I'm feeling the burnout. I'm really looking forward to having a few days off during Thanksgiving. I'm looking forward like the Christmas break forward to being up. Like, I think this time of year, it's hard. It's like that home stretch for the year and you've been busting your butt all year long. And now like everyone's really feeling it. So tell me what you've been seeing, Lynne.
I agree with that. I think a lot of times it almost seemed, I don't know about you guys, but it seems like this year the holidays are confusing because we're not even done with Halloween. And then we see Christmas decorations out. And then I'm seeing between Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas and all three decorations out. And it was just, it's been really weird this year. And I've seen more stuff about, but I love Christmas. So I'm going to decorate the day after Halloween and whatever, whatever floats your boat with that stuff. I haven't decorated yet. And I see all of my neighbors and I feel like I'm behind the eight ball and I'm normally the first one that decorates. So I know I'm decorating this weekend because I love the Christmas season and decorating, but I think with our clients and with our offices, I think if I'm seeing this in my personal life, that's what my clients are seeing too and their teams is if we see this in our personal lives, then what does that mean with, talking with our patients, right? We all have relationships with our patients and of course the chit chat that happens and how their days are going and how things are going. I think towards the end of the year, we all start to feel overwhelmed. And a lot of people, I think, use the phrase burnout when they probably mean the word overwhelm instead, because burnout, there's a standard for that I don't think is really reached. But I think we use that term instead of being overwhelmed, which I'll use the word overwhelm instead. That's something that happens all the time because we know what we're facing, especially if you're the one hosting all of the holiday things coming up between Thanksgiving and Christmas and different holidays that, your family may celebrate and different things coming up and what that means and with all the shopping and all the stuff, depending on how the age of your children and all of the stresses that come with that. And that's just within your own life. And then you've got, what does that mean in the work environment? What does that mean for your insurance and what reports need to be done and end of year things that have to happen within the business and what do you need to do by certain dates and oh my gosh, who's taking off for vacation? What's the office closure going to be? So I've heard all of that already. And trying to schedule calls for December, what's my work schedule going to be like compared to when my clients want to talk? So it's definitely, the walls are closing in, if you will, from a calendar standpoint. Everybody is becoming very overbooked very quickly. I would definitely agree. This week has been that week, for sure.
I can see that. And I'm just curious because I've noticed this with a lot of my clients that I haven't seen this in the past, but I would say last year and this year, I'm definitely seeing it. Most people that week between Christmas and New Year's, I'm starting to see people take like 2 weeks off at the end of the year versus like, let's open up and get everybody in that weekend. They're like December, 18th, 19th. They're like, I'm done for the year. So I'm seeing that shift with people too. It's like, I'll cram in, I'll work extra hours those first couple of weeks in December. I want some time with my family. I want some time to be able to like re-energize myself for the new year. Are you starting to see that as well?
I'm definitely seeing that as a trend. I'm seeing, and my doctors have had that conversations with their teams and said, okay, let's plan for this, because we seem to be really going crazy, and that they don't seem like they really enjoy their time off. And that was something that they were definitely playing offense on that, definitely, and planning for that this year, saying, this is what we're going to take off. This is what's going to happen. But in order to get that, we're going to have to work an extra hour, these weeks or that type of thing. So they were planning for that all along in order to take those last 2 weeks off. That's exactly what I am seeing as well. And if there are emergencies, then they'll handle those emergencies, like they normally do. But as far as the entire office, I have so many that are taking that off, and everybody is looking forward to that. And what I've heard from my doctors is, I want to reward not only myself and my family for me being present in the lives of my family, but I want that for my team as well. We've all been working so hard this year, and I want to be able to give that to my team. So I've definitely heard the exact same thing.
It's interesting because I think that's a good observation, Michelle, because I was actually thinking the other, I'm like, wow, so many of my clients are shutting down their office. Good for them. I think it's really comes down to realizing, I think obviously the holidays falling on certain days of the week, it kind of contributes to that. But I also think that everybody's kind of, their tanks are empty, and they're at the point where they're like, we'll work really, I have an office that usually doesn't work on Fridays. They've decided to work the first 2 weeks in December Friday, so that the team can take off the 10 days they want to plan to take off. So you can still get the production in, meet their goals, and still have family time and be able to disconnect, which I think is so important for that work-life balance.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And then, for me, I wish I could do the same thing, but that's what happens is the doctors take that time off from the practice and they want to talk to us.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
To be like, let me strategize for next year and get
all
all
on the
this done.
schedule.
And I'm okay with that. I'm okay. I am taking, a couple days. Like I am taking, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday next week for Thanksgiving. And I am taking a couple days around the holiday for myself and my family. But I think it's important that we do that. And I know we're talking about like the end of the year burnout or being overwhelmed, but this happens all year long. I think it hits us more because I don't know, it's like December 31st, like all of a sudden all this stuff needs to happen, right? Whereas like you don't feel it as much January, February. So I guess a question for you, Lynn, would be like, what do you suggest for offices, for doctors and stuff, kind of like to help themselves throughout the year? You know how we try to encourage patients to schedule treatment throughout the year and not wait until like November, December to use up all their benefits? How do you like coach your clients throughout the year to help them, like, so maybe they don't get to that like mad rush at the end of the year where they're feeling so overwhelmed?
That's a great question. I think a lot of times what we don't really talk about in dentistry for our clients, but also for them as business owners, is the wonderful part that planning and preparation gives them. We do that as coaches and consultants to be able to view what we're doing. But I think that's one thing that I really stress with mine is, listen, you need to plan and prep as much as possible. And when you do that, then that allows you more freedom. And it sounds like it's not that it's busy work that I'm giving them, but it's like, if we can look at this and break it down by quarters, and what is it that you want? And let's look at 2026 and say, this is what I'm looking at. I know I started doing that last year in 24 so that some of my clients could take those 2 weeks off in 25 and say, in order to do that, what does that break down? And start taking it month by month and just reverse engineer what you're looking for. But it takes time. And a lot of doctors are like, well, no, I'll just worry about it later. Well, no, you won't, because we know they won't. God bless them. And we just have to, if you plan for it and if you take the little steps, then once you actually fill out the plan and you start working the plan, then you got it. It's just nobody likes to take the time to do the planning necessary to be able to get that result. Everybody just wants the result. But I think they all need guidance in how to actually plan it. And once they've done the planning, it's amazing how easy it actually works. It's just asking the right questions and saying, okay, what is it that you want? And then let's see what that looks like. be whatever that means, right? It could mean time off. It could mean work, whether it be around the holidays or not, or it's a big summer trip that they want, or whatever the case may be. I know I had a client that wanted to have more free time on a regular basis, wanted to stop seeing patients from a clinical standpoint at a certain time every day. What did that look like on the schedule for him for production? Because he's nowhere close to retiring, but it's fitting that schedule for solo practice, and it's fitting that schedule for what exactly they want. It takes planning. But I think when you ask the right question, what is it that you want? What, to Malika's point, what's that work-life balance look like? And I've started to sort of replace that with, what does harmony look like to you? Not necessarily balance, because I think depending on the season that we're in, take that, whether it mean age or whatever season we're in, what does that look like for you? What does that harmony look like for you? And break it down, and then go forward with that plan and tweak the plan. I mean, no plan's going to be 100%. We know that. That's not how it works. But we try it for a little while. Let's see if that works. If not, let's tweak a little bit. But I think if you don't plan and if you don't make any changes, then the same insanity is going to happen over and over. And there's not going to be a new result or a different result, right? So we just need to look at it with a fresh pair of eyes and look at it from a different viewpoint to see what is it that they want.
Yeah, I think, Lynn, also, it's interesting. I feel like some dentists just don't know how to relax. So they feel that if they're off a day, there's something wrong. I mean, we probably can chime in on this on our own perspective as a business owner too. That sometimes I'm like, why do I not have something to do? Like, that's weird, But I think being able to make them understand that break is so instrumental in their ability to run a practice efficiently and also be a good mom, dad, husband, wife, whatever it may be, son and father, whatever it is, that makes is a huge, what I say, like a good feeling when they walk into the door and they're on it. They've been able to put the other hat off and put the other hat on. I think a lot of times I'm like telling my clients, like, you do not need to see patients 5 days a week. It's okay. You can be as productive in 4 days and have an admin day. And they're like, what does that mean? And I'm like, and I'm sure, Lynn, you can talk about this, but like 5 days a week of dentistry is burnout. Like, you can probably do it right out of dental school because you have loans to pay, you're eager, you're excited, and you can get away with it. But if you're in your 40s, 50s now still doing 5 days of dentistry, it's going to catch up with you physically and mentally. And I think, to your point, being able to know what that harmony is for you and your body is going to make your practice is probably going to thrive more, because I've seen it. When they step back a little bit and allow it kind of run, and they can see it from a different angle. It's so beautiful how it's like a musical instrument. It's like the tune is beautiful. But I think, and I'm curious from your angle, like, how do you make your clients know that it's okay and you can work 4 days or 3 days and still be productive and don't need to be in it every single day?
Well, I think it sort of comes back to that word perfectionism. They've been around that for so long. And I know you hear this from your clients as well, that they have this perceived notion that I have to do this. If I'm not working, then I'm not being productive, and I have to be productive. Productive means something different to everybody. And sometimes, Malika, I know you run. God love you, because I am not a runner. I'm a sprinter, but I am not a runner. I do not use those two words interchangeably at all. Let me play basketball. I'm good, but not running. Because if I'm running, you ask somebody who's chasing me, because find them and get them from me. Okay, please. But there's that difference of, what does that look like? Because if you slow down, you can actually go faster depending on what you're doing. So the same thing applies with our clients, much to your point of, if you slow down and you're methodical and you plan about, let's see what 4 days looks like. And sometimes you just have to show them with the schedule, what does that look like? Now that means, how creative can we be with the procedure mix? What does that look like? Because sometimes they just can't see it until they see it. And we just have to be creative problem solvers and let them see you've gotten into a rut of looking at it like this, but take a look at it from this perspective and let's be a little more creative. And then they realize, then we put the numbers to it, right? And then they see the numbers and they realize, wow, that's a whole lot better than I thought it would be. And then you realize your identity is not, and this is another thing, perfectionism and identity. I think in dentistry, they just see themselves, they allow themselves to see themselves as I'm a dentist, which is an oral physician. And we can talk about that later if you want to, because I think that's exactly what they are, is an oral physician. That is their role, but there's so many other roles that they play, father, mother, wife, husband, whatever, that there are other things to other people, a business owner, so many other things that they need to be still fueled up to be able to do their jobs. And we know how depleted they can be if they're not completely ready to be able to tackle the day, because dentistry is hard. I know when I talk to my clients, especially if it's during their lunchtime, I want them to eat because they need to be able to have calories to do their job, because dentistry is physical work. And a lot of people don't look at it from that standpoint, but they have to take care of themselves. They have to get rest. Rest is not being lazy. You have to have rest. You have to rest. You have to have sleep. You have to have nutrition. Hopefully you're working out. At least you're walking. You have to do these things so that you are physically and mentally prepared for your day. But that's just the clinical dentistry part. That's not even the business part, because there's so many layers to the stress of what our clients are feeling and what they're dealing with. And then you get all the other non-clinical stuff that none of them like to deal with that comes along with it. So I think it's so important for them to be able to see they've got to be ready in all different ways to be able to tackle their jobs so that they have the longevity of their career. Some can do it in 4 days, some can do it in 3 days. And it's okay. I really, really wish our clients would stop measuring themselves against some sort of measuring stick that they think this is perfection, or some social media something or other that they think when I reach this is the goal. Well, that may be nice, but you do dentistry your way, you know? Let yourself be that owner, that dentist that decides this is what I want my practice to be. You don't have to follow, Dr. Smith and how they want to do it, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then usually at that
There's
time,
that person.
when they meet that goal, it's not enough and they want more.
Exactly.
It just keeps going and going. And it's like, hold on. I thought if you make 1.2 and work 4 days a week, you're content. But no, now they want more. And sometimes their bandwidth can't handle more. So then they start breaking down mentally and physically. And for me to watch that on the sideline, it's hard because I know when they were happy. I remember that time. So then to see them where they are and then they're, but my colleague, my buddy that went to dental school with me is also has 5 chairs and is doing 1.8. Malika, why am I only doing 1.2? And then I have to remind them, you said that was your happy place was 1.2.
Yeah.
It's hard. I get it. It's a lot of comparison. But I think being able to find yourself and be in that position that I'm content, it's not easy. I think for any human, forget dentistry. But when you get to that level and you're content and you check off those boxes, yes, you always want to be motivated. I always say you never want to be in comfort zone because you're not growing if you're in the comfort zone. You want to be out of,
Right.
I always say, I'm like, push me. Like, I want to be challenged. I tell my boys this all the time. I'm like, if it was easy and you'd be always scoring goals, then like, what's next? That's boring. So same thing, I think, in any profession, but I think it's hard because, as you said, there's so many Facebook groups and study clubs and
Yeah.
this, and it's all about comparison. Like, who's better? You should be at this. Why should you be at that? Maybe this
Right.
person's ability is at what it is, and they should be content and not feel pressure that they have to do more. It's hard.
It
It is.
is. And I like what you said, Malika, because I do something similar. I ask all my clients when I start with them, like, what does success mean to you? And then I get some doctors that say, like, I need to do $1 million. I need to do 1.2. But others, which I think is so much harder, is I only want to work 3.5 days a week. I want to be able to take 3 weeks off to go on vacations with my family and have the practice run. That's success to them. So again, they'll get to the point where like, well, I'm looking in the Facebook group and they're like, they have the same amount of employees and their same kind of demographic. But I will say to them, and I protect that vision of theirs. Remember, I can get you there. Like getting 1.2 million, not that hard. It's really not. Like if you want to be a workhorse and work, like it's not that hard. What's hard is to protect your version of success, what you really want to do with the practice. And I think we all do that. We all like with social media, I have a love-hate relationship with it, right? It's a blessing and a curse because there's some really good stuff out there. But also remember, people are putting stuff out there that's not necessarily true.
Yeah.
Right? They're exaggerating it.
You're being kind when you say that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if we're going to be completely authentic, you're being very kind when you say that. Far be it from me to say that.
I just keep scrolling. I'm like, okay, here we go. Here we go. I'm not going to give my 2 cents.
I feel bad for these new graduates that are in like reading these posts because can you imagine pressure on these? Because back then, like my older clients joke with me. They're like, "Thank God I wasn't here around. I didn't start my practice, in the era of Facebook." Because he was like, I would have an anxiety attack if I had to read all this stuff all the time. I mean, if you imagine these, like, when I go to these dental schools and I speak, and I put examples of Facebook posts and I say, do you think this is real? I'm like, what do you think? Do you think this is real? And it's interesting. Their faces are kind of like, well, I don't know. And my friend said that could be real. I'm like, your friend, what is your content on that? Because I feel like, they're all on social media probably more than I am in my 40s. And they're believing some of these things like, my overhead's only 10%. Really? Is their overhead really 10%? Probably not,
No. So I think that's an issue for people, but I don't think they know where else to go and get the information, right? They don't know what other resources are available, or they're not willing to invest in the right resources, right? Facebook is free. Getting advice from those people is free. And I like the people that stand up and be like, you probably should check with your CPA or the attorney or somebody else on this. But I think that's a struggle that I do find with dentists too, is like their overhead is already high. So they're looking for a quick answer from somebody. And it could be somebody who has only ever worked in one practice and like maybe had everything handed to them. If they're not working as hard as them, it's a different situation. So I think like, yes, that's great. But like I always say, like, I don't always trust Dr. Google for everything, right? Like there's a reason why, like, okay, maybe I start there, but then I have to have the knowledge to like check on it myself and follow up with somebody that is considered an expert in that area. So I think that's part of the reason that these doctors are overwhelmed as well.
I'm going to start using overwhelmed over burnout.
I like that. I do like that, Lynn.
Yeah, I'm like, now it's going to be overwhelmed. It's not going to be burnout anymore.
There's a different threshold that you have to hit to truly be burned out. That's why, especially when I speak on it, it's like, chances are you're overwhelmed or not burned out. Yeah. There's a huge difference. It's just one of those things, there are just certain words that for me, it's like mindset versus attitude. They're totally different. Please don't interchange them, but that's me. We all have our things, right?
But it makes sense.
They're just different.
Overwhelmed is definitely, but I feel like some people just feel like probably saying burnout probably brings more of a red flag. I say like a cry for help versus overwhelmed. So I feel like I'm going to say I'm burnt out.
Attention for sure.
Yeah.
It definitely gets more attention.
Yeah. So that's what I'm like, I would be like, I'm overwhelmed. Somebody help me. And then Lynn's going to say, Malika, you're overwhelmed, not burnt out.
So I think something to also maybe touch on in the last, couple minutes here is, I think once people get to that overwhelmed point, they shut down. Right? Like they literally shut down. They can't deal with another staff member. One patient's going to set them over the edge, right? How do you recommend like somebody deal with that? For me, it's like, I know I need to step away. I do things for myself in terms of like self-care. I'll go like, it's time for me to get a massage, or you know what? It's time for me to like reread this book that I remember helped me so much before, or listen to this podcast again, or get on the phone with Malika and Lynn and just be like, hey, help. But I don't know if dentists know necessarily what to do when they get there.
To equate that to, it's like peeling an onion, because there's so many layers, and there's only so many layers that one person can handle. And once you get to the point of, I'll use the phrase severe overwhelm, okay? Because at that point, you don't care what you call it. If you're going to call it severe overwhelm or burnout, you're just like, I've had it. It doesn't matter what you're going to call it or label it. The trick is knowing what gets you there before you get there. And if you know every year, I mean, let's face it, you've got, as a business owner right now, you're sitting here trying to do end of year. You're meeting with your accountant, hopefully. You are thinking about what's happening for your financials for the end of year. What are you planning for next year, and different things. Plus you're looking at all of your reports thinking, are my team members actually going to be able to get all of those collections in before the end of the year? I mean, everything I'm talking about, all of those things. So you need to know I don't want to use the word trigger, because that's definitely something very personal, but you need to know what is it that's going to, if it happens every year, then you know what you need to look out for. Plan for it. You can't feign surprise, because if it happens to you every year, why are you surprised? Look out for if it's happening that frequently, or if it happens at certain times of the year, what is it that's happening? Be able to anticipate, okay, the fourth quarter is going to be troublesome. What makes it troublesome? Start really asking yourself the tough questions and start finding out, why is it so hard? What is it that is bringing it to a head? My stress level so bad that I'm getting to this point that it is so difficult for me. Once you can start asking yourself those hard questions and getting those answers, then ask yourself, what can I do to make it easier for me? Is it hiring a coach or a consultant? Is it hiring somebody on a part-time basis to help me out with X, Y, and Z? What is it that would help me be either better as a leader, better as a business owner, better to help the team? Where is that obstacle? Where's the bottleneck? What is it that's causing the issue? Because you got to identify the issue first. If it's a seasonal thing, then you've got to figure out what is the seasonal thing. You just got to identify it, because if you can't identify it, then you can't fix the problem. And if you're having trouble, anybody listening or watching to this, if you're having trouble not identifying it, then call one of the three of us and we'll help you identify what it is. If you're having trouble struggling with that, because that may be the biggest issue, is not seeing the forest for the trees, right? That happens all the time.
That's great. That is great advice. Great advice, because I don't think that they take a step back and can kind of see that. And you're right. If it's happening all the time, then you can't be surprised that it's happening. So thank you so much, Lynn. Before we go, I do want to talk a little bit about your book. Do you want to mention about that?
Sure. It's called You Can't Coach Quit. You guys know this, but your listeners may not. I have coached girls basketball for over 3 decades, and I love overlapping the idea of sports with dentistry, because first of all, I think dentistry is a team sport, and I view a lot of things from the lens of coaching. I view leadership through the lens of coaching. I wanted to have more of a sports viewpoint when it came to writing the book, and you can find that on Amazon. It's a really easy read. It's a little under 60 pages, so it was purposely written that way so it would not be a difficult thing to bring you any more stress or overwhelm to be able to read it.
Perfect. And we'll make sure that we put that in the show notes for you so they have a direct link if they're interested in it. I've read it. It's a great book.
It's a great book.
It's a great book.
Thank you.
So thank you so much, Lynn. I hope everybody got a few little tidbits out there. Take some time to relax over the holidays and get yourself rejuvenated for an amazing 2026.
Thank you guys for asking me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to Accelerate Your Dental Practice. To learn more about your hosts and explore consulting services tailored to your practice, visit affinitymanagement.co for Michelle Affanato and zardentalconsulting.com for Malika Azargoon. Be sure to follow, rate, and share the podcast. And join us next time for more tools, tips, and strategies to help you accelerate your dental practice.